For millions of years, Earth was a silent, lifeless planet. Then something changed. From chaos came chemistry, and from chemistry, life. But how did it all begin? For 0.5 billion years ago, Earth was a violent place. Molten rock bubbled across the surface. Volcanoes erupted nonstop. There was no oxygen, no oceans, no life. The sky was filled with toxic gases, methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide. But deep within the chaos, the seeds of life were forming. Earth had cooled enough for rocks to solidify, and rain carried minerals into the oceans. Lightning cracked, creating the first electrical circuits in nature. Hot stones plunged into cold water, chalking the primordial soup. In this maelstrom, simple molecules collided and combined in every imaginable way. Then one day, or maybe it was a million years later, we don't know, but somewhere in the tumult, a miracle happened. Organic molecules assembled into something new, a self-replicating structure, the first cell. From then on, things really took off, evolution accelerated and life exploded across our young planet. But how exactly did those first cells arise from all that chaos? How did life begin? We're about to find out. But before we dive into the origins of life itself, we want to show you something. Over the last 200 years, humanity has taken huge steps toward understanding the laws of nature. Scientists uncovered the secrets of chemistry, physics, and the cosmos. And yet many are still asking, where do we come from? Who are we? What is this all about? It's amazing to think that everything we see around us, including ourselves, is made up of just a few basic elements: stars, planets, animals, plants, bacteria, people. You and me, we're all just a bunch of chemistry. At its core, chemistry is about change, rearranging matter into different combinations until you get the stuff that makes up our world. In 1953, two scientists set out to solve the biggest mystery in chemistry, the origin of life. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey wanted to know if the building blocks of life could emerge naturally from non-living matter. Their experiment shocked the world. By recreating early Earth conditions and mixing water, methane, ammonia, and continuous electrical sparks, they created the building blocks of life, amino acids. This proved that life could begin from non-life. It's called abiogenesis. Put simply, life could come from chemistry. All it needs are the right ingredients and the right conditions. Over billions of years, simple molecules like amino acids have organized, bound and replicated. That's how life began. In fact, scientists now believe the origin of life probably was in a single event, but a long series of steps occurring over hundreds of millions of years. One day, simple molecules became complex molecules. Another day, complex molecules formed the first cell. After that, things moved quickly. Evolution kicked in and life exploded across the planet. Today, we know life can emerge from chemistry under the right conditions. But what are those conditions? Unfortunately, we don't know exactly what the conditions were like on the young Earth, but we do know that our planet was not very hospitable. Volcanic eruptions spewed gases into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and scorching the surface. Oceans were acidic, the sky was filled with deadly gases, and yet life still managed to emerge. So what do we know about the chemistry of life? First, there was plenty of energy to go around. Volcanic activity released heat and gases, providing fuel for reactions. Lightning lit up the sky and provided the spark needed to jumpstart organic synthesis. Electricity surged between hot rocks and cold water, powering primitive chemical circuits. Energy also came from chemicals. On land, volcanoes spewed sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus into the air and onto the surface. Under the sea, compounds bubbled out of vents in the ocean floor. As far as we know, life cannot exist without a source of energy. So, it's no surprise that the earliest organisms were probably living near volcanoes or hydrothermal vents. As for the ingredients, we know that life, as we know it, needs three key elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Together, They form the backbone of the four major molecules of life: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Carbon is especially important because it can bond with other atoms in different configurations, allowing for a lot of variety and complexity. So, when Miller and Urey mixed these simple elements with water in their famous experiment, they kick-started life's chemistry. Of course, they didn't create human beings. They only created the building blocks of life. But their experiment showed that life can emerge from non-life under certain conditions, and since then, scientists have been trying to recreate those conditions to learn more about the origin of life. The good news is that we know quite a bit about the chemistry of life. The bad news is that doesn't tell us much about how the first cell arose. To understand that, we need to explore two concepts that may sound familiar: information and metabolism. First, let's talk about information. You see, cells aren't just blobs of chemistry. They carry information in the form of DNA, which controls everything an organism does. In fact, DNA contains the instructions for assembling even more cells. This means cells can pass on their own blueprint, which is essential to life as we know it. But where did this information come from? Some scientists believe that life may have started near hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean. It sounds unlikely, but hear us out. Hydrothermal vents are dark, hot, and filled with minerals. Conditions are highly variable and not entirely unlike the primordial Earth. Plus, scientists have found evidence that the chemicals that kickstart protein synthesis occur naturally in these environments. What's more, experiments show that RNA, not DNA, may have been the first genetic material. And RNA can both store information and catalyze reactions. That means RNA could have performed both functions of DNA and enzymes simultaneously. If life did begin near these underwater vents, it would explain why so much of the machinery of life revolves around chemistry. Now let's talk about metabolism. Metabolism is the set of processes that allow cells to grow, respond to changes in their environment, and reproduce. In short, metabolism is what allows cells to be alive. But where did metabolism come from? One theory goes like this. In Earth's early oceans, small bubbles called protocells began to form. Inside them, RNA molecules could copy themselves. These were the earliest forms of information, the first codes of life. Protocells were self-organized structures made up of fatty acids and other organic molecules. They had no metabolism and couldn't reproduce on their own, but they did contain genetic material. Scientists have even managed to synthesize protocells in the lab. To take things a step further, some researchers believe that metabolism evolved from chemical cycles in the environment. Imagine a series of chemical reactions happening naturally in Earth's early oceans. These reactions could produce molecules that are used in the body to store energy. Eventually, these reactions could become enclosed within a membrane, creating the first primitive cell. Another possibility is that metabolism developed gradually through natural selection. Over millions of years, simple organic molecules slowly became more complex. Eventually, a molecule capable of catalyzing reactions emerged, the first enzyme. That breakthrough allowed for faster, more efficient reactions. And over time, enzymes became more sophisticated and eventually gave rise to metabolism. So, how did the first cell arise from the chaos of Earth's early history? Well, we don't know for sure, but we do know it started with the chemistry of life. Organic molecules formed under the right conditions. Then they assembled, catalyzed reactions, stored information, and eventually formed the first cells. It was a slow process that took millions of years. Today, scientists continue to piece together the mystery of life's origins. Researchers use computer models to simulate conditions on early Earth. They conduct experiments to test hypotheses about the origin of life. They search the globe for clues about the chemistry of life. And thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, they'll soon be able to examine exoplanets for signs of life. But one question remains: if life began once, Could it begin again? Somewhere else? Out there in the vast unknown, we may be on the verge of discovering that life emerged multiple times in the universe. If that's true, we'll have to rethink our place in the cosmos. After all, if life isn't unique to Earth, we're no longer special. In fact, we might be more common than dirt. Thanks for watching TerraVox. If you love science, space, and deep questions, subscribe now. Next episode, could life exist beyond Earth? See you next time.